Hello. Aren't Asians all alike? That is the question that we wish to answer in this podcast. And I wish to give you overwhelming evidence so you can decide for yourself by giving you different stories and perspectives from a number of different people, as well as my Japanese, Chinese, Swedish, fourth generation observations in my life. In this episode, this is from 2 years ago, and unfortunately, it is evergreen. I am addressing Asian Americans and sharing with them when I spoke up, when I spoke up for justice, because Asian Americans are daily stabbed and weekly killed and just horribly hated everywhere, even if you're not aware of it. I spoke up about that because I believe that my network, my large tech network, would care and would listen and do something about it. And they did not. They were silent. It was a ghost town out there. It was crickets. What? I was shocked that nobody cared. Nobody showed they cared. Nobody had the courage to say, "Oh, really? Oh, tell me more about that." Very, very few. So when they stayed silent, I spoke up. I spoke louder. And I want you out there who identify as Asian Americans, or others who have a culture that is similar, that you are not alone. And speaking up is important and it saves lives. It models the behavior for people to be themselves. So if you feel unseen, erased, or alone, you're not. And speaking up can cost you some of your friends. If so, were they really that good a friend? If they don't even want to hear how you are feeling, or if you feel concerned about your safety, that is sad. Do you really want to hold on to those? Freeing up space can open up new opportunities and new people. I feel so much better knowing that the people around me, it's a smaller group, but these are people who are strong and have good values. And these values have been tested and they are there for me. And I have a much stronger network and I don't have to hide my feelings in order to protect them of feeling awkward. So tell your story and claim your culture. Have a listen and a video. How many of you watched the show Beef? Put it in the chat on Netflix. So, of course, this show is about Asian Americans and their pent up rage and where it comes from. And I watched it a couple of weeks ago. And no, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it was really hard to watch. I think because it was just so true. It was different, but so true. And they were just, all the characters were starving to be seen and to be heard and to be validated. And they just were so desperate for connection. And I was relating to that so hardcore by hearing other Asian American stories. And they didn't have an opportunity to be able to connect and share their story. And so they hit their breaking point. And so then they have uncontrollable, destructive anger. And of course, as Asians, I think we understand that we're taught, hey, whatever, people will be mean, just eat it, whatever, no problem. You just have to absorb it like a sponge and suppress it and just put it down, into your toes and live with it. And so sometimes a lot of us do that. And we need more opportunities to share these stories that Fiona was talking about, because suppressing them, of course, is a problem. And we also need non-Asians to listen to us. And when we can share our stories and be listened to, then maybe we could avoid being these human pressure cookers that explode like on Beef. And I just want you all to realize that we do all have stories. And the problem is just nobody hears them. And and people can really, when we share stories, they can like, oh, and connect with that. And so during our time together, think about your story. And this by the end of our program here, think about sharing your story this week and share it with others. And Pacific Islanders, they talk about this a lot. Talk story.
let's talk story. And so we need to normalize the idea of sharing perspectives. Um, I don't know if you've had much opportunity to actually share your perspectives and share your stories, because I don't know that anybody's really asking, until the last couple of years. So I'm going to share with you mine. And it's really about connecting Asianness. And so I am culturally, I'm ethnically Japanese, Chinese, and Swedish, and I'm culturally Japanese American. And I'm fourth generation in America. And these are my folks. My mom is Japanese, my father is Chinese and Swedish, and here's my Japanese grandparents, and they were born here. And here are my other grandparents, so Chinese and Swedish. I think my grandma kind of looks like a movie star. And I grew up in a lot of white spaces. I'm the non-white person there in this picture. And but the difference with my background is that I wasn't teased. People didn't do the ching chong thing with me. They didn't put their eyes up, with their, slant their eyes up, and they didn't do all that with me. And I continued to be in white spaces as a professional. So for many years, 26 to be exact, I've been a professional speaker and worked at Fortune 500 companies and did a lot of team building. And I'm bringing people together and bringing the fun. And my network is 98% white. So that's, me in the minority. So certainly that all changed, of course, with COVID, and people didn't have events anymore. And then, of course, we had Atlanta, the murders of Asian Americans. And I didn't know, I'm not in San Francisco. And I just had heard of maybe 5 attacks outside of Atlanta, besides Atlanta. And so I didn't really know, but I knew, oh, wow, okay, I got to say something, because the big news is covering this. And we hear from Asian reporters, hey, Connie Chung had to work really hard to get one Asian American story. So I thought, all right, with my network, I can do some help here. But being that my network is white and I'm 25% white, I questioned my Asianness. And I knew that I didn't really know what Asian Americans were thinking, because that is not my network. So I started plugging into Asian American news. So Next Shark, Asian American, it's called Asian American News, and Dion Lim and Stefan Kim and Betty Yu, because a lot of stuff is going on with San Francisco and New York, right? Where some of you are. And so I was learning how different that the Asian American news is than the regular news. And that surprised me, because I got 5 hours during COVID, like 5 hours minimum daily of news. And I didn't hear about all these attacks outside of Atlanta. So it was shocking to me to understand that Asian Americans were being attacked every day, because I knew when there were victims, it was always Black. It was never Asian. So I was plugging into these other Asian networks. You're Japanese if Asians Today and Asians Now and all these different groups, because, how representative am I? I'm quarter white and I'm mixed. I'm fourth generation, and I just speak English. That's it. A little bit of sign language. And so I know that, okay, I'm not the pinnacle of Asianness, but I can do some researching. And I realized that with only 6% Asian Americans, that we really need the majority to speak up. So my network, they certainly are. Actually, I wanted to share with you. Okay. So my network is very much influential. They're in technology, they're leaders, they're entrepreneurs, they're liberals, and they're absolutely out there on the marches, Black Lives Matter and Pride. And so, of course, they're going to join in with Stop Asian Hate. So I began sharing. And so here's kind of examples of what I would share. How many more Asians need to die? Can you take a moment to listen and learn and show that you care? And then I would have a link to an article or something like that. And these are cover photos. Many of us Asians feel alone in this fight. When we speak up, we're ignored. Amplify our voices by sharing yours. And I would share maybe 6 times a day, and then also on other networks, hearing other Asian stories and their what they're going through. And unfortunately, nothing. You know, like I was even doing interviews, sometimes 4 Facebook Lives every day with other Asians, because I figured, okay, well, my network just needs to know, we're not on the news, so I'll just bring these feelings of 2 Asians talking so they can try and understand. And they didn't, and it didn't matter. And I thought, gosh, they've got to care. How do they see me in pain and not care? And I thought, well, okay, well, maybe they need to see it. And so I documented the attacks, and I thought, okay, seeing is believing. And so I put up the daily attacks on my website. I have the attacks by month. So you can click on the videos and the stabbings and all of that and see it for yourself. So I shared that, nothing. And I just could not believe it. And after a year of doing all these attacks, I got so many nightmares around this that I had to stop. And I don't think it was even happening. Yeah, Chris, those are all in 1 month. So on my website, jolenejang.com, I did it by month. And I had so many on there that it wouldn't load. So I put it by month. And I'm just one person. So there were so many attacks. And I know that everybody has their own jobs and their families and the dogs and everything. So they're not up on it as I am, but I'm looking out there, and it is just on Instagram. There's a lot of crimes with Asian victims. So it is just horrible. So meanwhile, I'm saying, hey, where is my network? My network. I used to report for South by Southwest and at CES. I've got a huge network, 7,000 plus of people that I know. Where are they? These are white do-gooders, and they're already out there for women's rights and pride, but they're nowhere to be found. And then also looking at, like, where's my best friends? Where are they? Because I was there for them. And I think about my friend. So she, I was there for her when she got divorced. I was there for my other friend who got cancer. I was there for my friend who got raped. And they are not there for me, and still are not there for me. And one of them was in my will. And she's the one who says, Jolene, you're angry. I think you should see a therapist and turn off the TV and just, try and be happy. And I'm like, how are you not angry? And how come my sadness and crying every day, how does that not impact you? And yeah, and the thing is, like, this past best friend, right? She sees no color, and she is a do-gooder in all the kind of ways, right? She's the most inclusive of all people, but she doesn't see color. So those don't quite go. And she was in my will. And so the best of them, right? She was the best one, not understanding. And so it's been really difficult. I cried nearly every day, and multiple times a day, because I'm seeing these Asians suffer. And like Chris was mentioning, it was all in 1 month. Oh yeah. And so I saw this constantly. And these were Asian strangers that I have no connection with. But I felt their pain. I'm not an empath or anything. I don't even think I'm emotional. I didn't think I was. But also the pain was not just, it was Asian suffering, but it was also the white silence. My networks and their networks and your networks, who would just let you say something, and they either condemn you or just let you feel so alone. So to me, I see silence as violence, and it's been really difficult. I do think it's horrible, but I chose justice over friendship, and I would do it again and again. And if any of you have that situation, I could share, like, the benefits of being surrounded by like just a few people instead of a lot of people, but knowing, hey, if I'm going to walk out somewhere and get raped, that the new people will actually like, oh, hey, that's bad. Let's do something. Because I feel like my network, my friends would just let me not do anything. And it's just it's bad. So I was wondering in the chat, how have you been? Have you felt any of these things? Um, have you felt isolated? Have your non-Asian friends reached out to you? Do you have you lost your friends like I have? Yeah. Yeah, intensive grief, yeah, it stays with me. I these days I do a lot of joy crying actually, and that's if somebody does something nice, even just like says hello. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody just said hello to me. So I really appreciate just the really small niceties. I cry pretty easily because it's joy crying. So
It was a really weird time for me, especially during COVID. I think like with everything being so close to home in the Bay,
yeah.
like I remember just feeling like intense rage.
Hmm.
I think part of it being so rage inducing for me is like we were taught a lot of like reverence and respect for elders, and like there was that time where a lot of these crimes were like specifically targeted towards Asian seniors, and like the number one question that I asked was like, why was this not being labeled a hate crime? Like this is like straight up profiling and targeting on the margins of like ethnicity, and whatever little coverage we did get, it was never marked as a hate crime. And like I saw COVID as the coming of like the second yellow peril, where like it was a wake up call for a lot of my more like Americanized Asian American friends of like, hey, like this model minority privilege is a privilege because it can be taken away like in an instant. And that was demonstrated during like COVID. We were no longer like the Asian American whiz kids that like Times Magazine labeled us like 40 years ago. We were now like the coronavirus threat, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the statement of like, you sound angry, maybe you should just turn off the news. Like, oh my God, if I could get $1 for every time I heard that, it was like nuts. Or like people really wouldn't understand why I was that angry. And maybe it was part of the disconnect of like, these aren't your family members, but it's like, I don't know. I'm so used to the Asian community being the invisible minority where it's like, well, if we ourselves don't speak out, like no one definitely will be. And I'm screaming louder for the people who won't scream for us. And I don't know. It's like, I can only imagine how infuriating it would feel to like be dismissed uh, professionally from like a group of people and personally from like your friends when you're just like, hey, this is like no one's doing anything about it. Like, I think the group of people that had commentary on my rage definitely didn't tell me to like go see therapy, but the whole like maybe you should turn off the TV is like, even if I turn off the TV, like my grandparents are in like San Francisco's Chinatown. Like they don't feel safe going outside their house anymore. Like they will legit call me and be like, can we go out this weekend? And like to hear them have to ask permission for autonomy like breaks my heart, especially because like, if you work like self-help for the elderly, like the number one thing that they want to empower all citizens with is like autonomy, independence, and like dignity. And like all three of those things were just ripped away overnight.
Yes. Yes. And yes. Thank you for sharing. Totally relatable. And I just, again, like I feel validated knowing that I'm not alone. Um, yes, it says most of my friends are Asian. This is Alex, and they felt the same way, same fear and rage I did, but I actually felt a similar way to Jolene. But at the work, we even managers, coworkers, and champion themselves as being super inclusive and empathetic, especially when we're in the liberal area. But when push came to shove, their actions did not match up with what they said they were. Yeah. And my network, really nice people and strong people, but also dripping with white fragility. So those can exist at the same time. And I think that, like one of my best friends, like, you're just like me, Jolene. I don't see you as Asian. You're just like me. Of course, probably many of you have heard that as well. It's like, no, I'm not white. I'm not like you. I'm not the approved race. I am different. And there's different things that belong with that. And so it's, yeah. And so it goes on. And so just being here with you all, I do feel validated. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to share? Is a big, yeah, yep. So what I did with this is my colleague sent me this. I actually thought he wrote it up. It was so perfect. Sir Anthony Hopkins. And in case this is helpful to anybody, I'm going to read it to you. When you are excluded, subtly offended, forgotten, or easily ignored by people you give your time to, you don't do yourself any favor by allowing them your energy and your life. You're starting to realize that the most important thing you can do for your life, for yourself, and for everyone is protect your energy stronger than anything. Turn your life into a safe sanctuary where only compatible people with you are allowed. Decide you deserve a true friendship. And when my friend sent me this, I was just like, oh my gosh, just kind of joy, connecting, crying, because I have this huge network that is zero there for me now. And it just gave me permission that, oh, you are wasting your time because I'm the one who does all the investing. I host, I do the inviting, I bring people together. And now that I need them, I'm invisible. So this is really helpful to me. And the other thing that I did was created Empowered Asians. So just how I needed people to talk to, I needed Asians to talk to. I really didn't have anyone. I tried kind of, and it just didn't work out. And so I created this group. And what we do here and for an hour and a half is we share our stories. And this is a place where people can go and share what they're dealing with. Hey, did anybody reach out to you? And hey, my parents are Trump supporters, and just whatever's going on, and to be able to express this where people can understand. And I started from hearing other people's stories. I started thinking about my story because I'm fourth generation. I don't know a lot. So I didn't get a lot of culture. I have to kind of earn it and learn it now. So I was listening to all these stories of other people, and I just became so aware that nobody's listening. And it's just really disheartening. But I was determined to see if I can find some others who might want to listen. And oh, by the way, I don't know if you all saw this one. So Eric Toda, he's a Facebook executive, and he wrote in Adweek this powerful letter. And again, connection. And I took parts of it to share with you. My people are dying in silence, and I'm here with a megaphone. No signs of concern, and no one is paying attention. No big news outlets, no brands, no influencers, no hashtags, silence. It's not that we can't talk. There's just no one listening to us. The myth has turned other communities against us as we have been inappropriately placed on a pedestal. So we scream, and we're screaming at backs turned to us. And in case you haven't been paying attention, we've been speaking up the entire time. And don't let us die in silence. And I just, I reached out to Eric to just tell him, oh my gosh, that just so speaks to me, because he's a person of influence who gets it. And I got to hear his story. He's mixed, and how he didn't know so much about his heritage, but now he is, because he wants to teach his kids. So I think this connection piece, again, Eric Toda, he shared his story, and then I felt better because I felt not alone. And I think a lot of people also felt that same way. And so I was determined to find some Asian allies, some people who actually want to respect and learn about and hear our stories. So I created this additional online group, and this is a Facebook group, and they are committed to learn and amplify our stories. We have 450 people in this group, and we meet weekly. And so the types of things we talk about is environmental racism. I was talking to Alex earlier, and she was in Seattle, and like our Chinatown is tiny, but you know, there's transportation trying to go through it. There is another homeless shelter, yet another one, and this happens in New York, also in Philadelphia right now, and all over. So environmental racism usually is associated with other communities, but Asians have similar problems, fetishization of Asian women. Through this, I realized, oh, I've always worn sizes of clothing that were 2 sizes bigger than me because I didn't want to show off my body. I didn't want to be the MTV babe. Um, and so that's something that I learned as well. Silence is compliance. Sharing about this white silence, what does it mean? What's the impact? Portrayal of Asians in Hollywood, it's getting better. But if you look on this, you see like kind of the halfies, right? You have Darren Barrett and Henry Golding, right? You have this, they're all halfies, right? And so it's like, oh, is it Asian guy? Is he sexy yet? Right. And so that's starting to change. But so we talk about that and how does that impact Asian men? And then tomorrow we're talking about lessons from Hawaiian culture, building inclusive organizations. So if any of you are all invited, this is Asian Allies to come to this. So that's that. So I am in a different place now. It is excruciating, frustrating, depressing work. And I am still fuming with rage, and I am just furious at seeing Asians being cut down both physically and emotionally, and seeing the white silence. But I'm also channeling my anger into education, and to create more Asian allies. And I spend a lot of my time in the event and hospitality industry. People who are putting on events, and we formed an API event groups. And what we do there, I will talk to different folks and say like, oh, hey, for your big conference coming up, I noticed that you have 0 out of 73 Asian American speakers. 0 out of 73. Okay. And this is very common. And so trying to change that. And then in a lot of spaces, corporate spaces that I'm in, DEI does not include Asian Americans, and absolutely no Native Hawaiians or Pacific Islanders as well. And I'm also sharing with them, okay, in your marketing, how about some Asian faces? How about some names so we can try and normalize, get familiar what our faces and names look like. So it hasn't been all terrible, but just very terrible. But I've hosted over 200 webinars and podcasts, and I've created over 100 interviews with Asians because I want people to get used to seeing Asians and hearing from them. And I feel like I'm now making a difference. Usually it's one by one, but at least here, well, it's like 30. Yay! But I guess the main thing is I don't feel alone anymore. Yeah, exactly. Hello, that's right. And let me introduce you to some of my allies. This is Joan, and she's in DC, and she's a 75-year-old Jewish woman and is an advocate for everything. She inspires me. This is a video actually I made of how to be an ally, and just is always keeping me up to date on different legislation. And this is Jenny. So Jenny refers me to the industry media so we can do stories that affect the events community, and she nominates me for awards. And Jim, so he is a professor and a leadership speaker, and I have 5 events in these 6 days, and they're all ranging on different things. And so he's helping me structure them because I have a lot to say. So trying to get the right things to say in it. And then lastly, here's KG. So KG, they work for Girl Scouts. And I asked her, well, what about an Asian American badge? And she said, yeah. And so she put one together. And so I'm just so pleased because I'm used to influencing one by one. But Girl Scouts is a huge organization in many countries. And these are in the millions of people that are in Girl Scouts. So I'm pleased, and they visit the concentration camps and different things for all age kids. So it's pretty neat. And so Asian allies, they are applying what they're learning at our meetings, and slowly sharing with their networks. It's a slog, right? It's like painfully, slugfully slow, but it's still moving forward. So, through listening through all these hundreds of Asians in America, I've discovered that actually I am more Asian than I thought I was. So that's kind of neat. And I also learned why I didn't know that much about my Japanese American culture. So, I don't know if you're familiar with the Jap hunting license during World War II. Is anybody familiar? So, my grandparents, they were forced out of their homes in Seattle. And so the Jap hunting license, not cool. And these are all the versions of Jap hunting licenses, right? So I think my Japanese grandparents weren't like, "Hey, let's teach our kids to be very Japanese so they could be hunted and won't be able to shop anywhere and all of that." So that helps me understand like my story. And of course, we don't want any Japs here. So despite all the challenges, um, I wouldn't change anything. It's rough doing what I do, but I get to learn about the rich cultures of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, and building these new networks, and celebrating the small wins. The Sikh community, the fifth largest religion of the world, they just got curriculum in, I believe it's Michigan, so that's exciting. And I get to educate people who had no idea and maybe have a better idea how to be Asian inclusive. So I feel like these efforts are making a difference. And it's because I'm sharing my stories, and we're able to unite through stories. And I believe that we have the ability to connect through the stories. So I want to ask you, what is your story? And I do want to encourage you, probably after this, to do a campaign, because I think you all have stories that make you you, and I think the world needs to hear them.